And I think we might actually be live now. So, hey, I'm here with Katerina. Actually, I'm about to say your surname and then realize that I'm presuming your surname is pronounced Kanelidou, but I
yes.
Good. I should have checked before we went live. Katerina and I go way back. We were both involved with our local chapters for the ICF and met in various glamorous locations across Europe.
Indeed.
Katerina, is there anything, I mean, tell everybody about where you're based and your work focus at the moment.
Oh, I'm based in Greece, just outside of Athens, and my focus is back on teams and groups, and I really loved it. On Saturday, I had a conversation with another team coach with whom we worked for the competency model. And he was reflecting on his own journey. So he started from leadership, then went to teams. And mine was the opposite. So actually, I started in 95, I think, working with teams and groups. And then I always wanted to do that also as a coach. And I made my first research paper on teams. And then I was just requested to do more leadership coaching. And when I had the opportunity to go back and work again with teams, I just love it.
Wonderful. I'm checking the Facebook Live for comments because I can see somebody, Sharon's there, who is very interested in supervision. And we're going to be talking about that in a minute with you, Katerina. If anybody has any questions, please use the comments. I'll be looking extremely rude because I'll be not making eye contact with Katerina because I'm going to be looking at my phone a lot.
Difficult because if I want to do eye contact with you, I should look at the camera, but then I will miss your eyes that are here.
I know it's anyway. We'll do what we can, and I think we're all getting used to this strange way of working. Katerina, I wanted to start off by asking you, what is team coaching? What's the difference with group coaching? You know, what are we talking about here?
That's the first question that we need to understand before we start talking about the competencies and about anything else. And what we start with is understanding the difference between a team and a group. So a group is just a collection of people. They have something in common. But a team is a group of people with a common shared purpose, I will say, shared purpose and shared goals, who work interdependently in a shared context. So they are interdependent, they have the shared purpose, shared goals, and shared context. Now, if a team is not operating as a team, they are, let's say, all over the place, they are not aligned, but they have the shared context, they are interdependent.
They've got the job title of being in a team.
Yeah. So they should operate as a team, but they operate as a group. They are still a team. That doesn't make them a group. It's just, we are just noticing what's going on, but they are still a team. The definition stays. Now, once we have this clear, then we can check what is team coaching. And ICF is giving us a definition. It's partnering in a co-create, a reflective process with a team and its dynamics and relationships in a way that inspires them to maximize their abilities, the potential in order to reach their shared purpose and shared goals. So it is still a partnership as one-on-one. It is a co-creative process, reflective process. And this time, the goals, the potential that we want to, we take advantage is to reach the shared purpose and shared goals. So we see them as a unity. So that means that for team coaching, the client is the team. It's not each individual. The client is the team.
So so if you imagine like my hand, if you were group coaching, you'd be coaching the fingers, whereas team coaching, you're kind of coaching the connection between them.
The hand.
yeah, that bit rather than the individual. Okay, so that's a mucky old metaphor. It helps my head because there's mention within the competencies about the entity of the team, the relationships between them.
Yes.
So why do we need different competencies when we're looking at team coaching as opposed to individual coaching? Why was there a need for this new framework?
Okay. One of the things is the observation that team coaching is one of the fastest growing disciplines in the coaching profession. It is becoming increasingly on demand and important in all kinds of organizations. We have corporations, government agencies, NGOs, nonprofits, all kinds. So with the demand, it brings more attention to see, okay, how is this done? Is it the same? Because there are complexities. We have key themes here, and that the fact that the entity now, the client, is not just one individual. There are multiple individuals, but still an entity. We have the complexity, for example, of the dynamics. It's not that's me and one client, but me and the client, there are several dynamics. And also the systems with which we work with becomes more complicated. Or the fact, for example, that we need to include conflict coaching inside the team coaching brought the demand of, okay, let's see, what is it that a team coach needs to have as competencies so that they are able to successfully do that?
There is something within the new competency framework that alludes, I think, to the complexity of working with teams. And that is, and I know Sharon's watching and she'll like this, but within the new competency 2, it says engages in coaching supervision. The very nature of teams reminds me of the complex nature of supervision, that when you're supervising an individual coach, you're supervising the coach, the client, their organization, this classic 7-eyed model. This is me with my supervisor hat on, by the way. And the 7-eyed model of supervision, there is complexity. And I think this competency saying engages in coaching supervision reflects the fact that there is a complexity within coaching in teams. Is there anything you want to add about this thing about coaching supervision? Is it a requirement now?
First, I have to add that I am very proud that all the experts that we worked, we agreed that, this should be in the competency. So about the supervision. Because it's very easy for a team coach to be entangled in the team dynamics, and we can become unaware of issues that should be addressed. We want also to be an impartial observer and help the reflective practice. So as it is more complex, the supervision becomes mandatory. For me, it will, becomes mandatory. I cannot imagine me working without having a supervisor, but I also have a supervisor for my one-on-one coaching. So I can imagine. Now, how that would look like, the requirements, it will be officially announced by the ICF with other elements. And then the question goes back to the supervisors, the coach supervisors. What do they need to know so that they supervise team coaches effectively? For example, in the team coaching global certificate that we did, in the first cohort, we had 2 experienced coach supervisors, and they came to do the training on team coaching so that they have a better and in-depth understanding of the team coaching and what is needed also from the team coach, etc., and some experience themselves so that they can supervise better the team coach in the future.
Brilliant. No, I'm delighted to see it in there as well. I wanted to ask you as well about within the new team coaching competencies, what do you think is the most important competency?
I always go for for me, it's always the same. It doesn't matter if it is one-on-one coaching or team coaching or group coaching. For me, it's always about constructing about basically contracting is one of the processes that are fundamental to create trust and safety. And if trust and safety, that I always say that it's crucial for one-on-one coaching, it becomes even more important for the work in team coaching. Because we are talking about to create this safety, especially the psychological safety, and that doesn't happen by just sit there and say, okay, by the way, it's confidential, right? And you can have an open conversation. No, because you have people with history, we have people with hierarchy. So how you're going to change their own patterns and, you know, and also ways of having this space with each other, without taking time. It is also important to start creating the alignment, because in contracting, you have, I like, by the way, the model of transactional analysis in contracting.
Yeah.
Great. Where you have there the administrative contract. Okay, you take care of all the admin aspects of that, with both the sponsor and the client. Then you have the professional contract. So what is our purpose here? What are we here to do? What are going to be our roles? So we start thinking about the shared purpose and more. And then the psychological contract. Here we are reflecting on underlying issues, hidden agendas, expectations. So if this is not openly discussed, it is going to jeopardize the entire process and task. Here is when we set not only our hopes, but also our fears, but also we co-create the ground rules. And in the competencies, you will see that it talks about the rules and norms. It doesn't tell when and how you're going to create them. So this happens at the contracting, when you start working with a team and you agree of, okay, if we have, this is a safe space, how do we do that? How do we create that? Or what is it that you need? Because they are different. There is the diversity of each one. And the leader might step in and make some assumptions, you know, we are used, I have seen that a lot, by the way. So I'll say, oh yeah, you are very comfortable with each other, we are okay. But he speaks about his assumption. And then, okay, you know, let's hear from the others what each one of them feels that is needed. And I always have them written, and okay, in a virtual environment, it's, you know, in a whiteboard or somewhere else, or is a physical room there on the wall, and we can frequently go back and check with them if we need to recontract, if you know, our direction is still relevant, if what's happened with our rules and norms still apply, we need to tick them, we need to add what happens. And they provide also a good point of reference of managing some of the things that can happen. Having said that, identify that, co-creating that is not enough. The next thing is that as a coach, especially if I'm working with my co-coach, I have made a similar agreement with my co-coach, we are forming another team, and we are always modeling that. So we are always modeling and reinforcing these norms. So not only we are accountable, we are supporting everyone to say, yeah, we didn't just put them on paper, we actually apply them.
We're bringing them to life.
Exactly.
We're living them. Yeah. I love that. There were some other things that I noticed when I look at the competency framework. I was just hoping that you could help me out with. There was something around, and excuse me, I'm looking at my notes. The kind of zoom in and zoom out, the stepping in and out of the team dialogue. That comes up a couple of times with, and then I see encouraging the team to own the dialogue within competency 6, and again in competency 7, evokes awareness, uses questions and other techniques to foster team development, facilitate teams' ownership of their collective dialogue. Yeah. I love that, but I'm kind of wondering how you do it.
You know why? Because one of the you know, of the outcomes is the sustainability of the team, and they shouldn't rely on us to be always there for them, but they start having the ownership. So, okay, there were many questions here. Let me think about.
Don't worry, and I
so,
realise that I'm dropping
okay.
you in it, so we can always use the
It's
chat
okay.
afterwards to catch up with any questions.
Great. So what something very important for everyone to have in mind is that each one of these points on the competencies, don't just look at them in the puzzle, how they fit in like an expansion of the core competency, but also check the background of each one of these sentences, because the background is interesting. So for example, in the background
There's
of
two
what
documents, is that right?
it's in the same document. One is
Okay.
the puzzle, the other is the table. So for example, in owning the dialogue, here we see that team members may tend to direct communication to the team coach, right? Specifically at the beginning. We have experienced that when we are the authority, like with the training, they direct to us. And we want to facilitate the conversation with each other. So they start having the dialogue with each other. I'm not there, to talk to me. It's one of them.
Yeah.
So we are, for example, this is a small example. Then is what is the process? The team should decide what is the process of how they are going to decide, how they are going to make decision, to process data, to move forwards. So this is another element. So I don't, the team, the coach is there to help the team, and in that way we may more facilitate the conversation, so to help them decide about all these processes.
I love that. I've had a kind of just a comment really about the complexity of contracting, that contracting itself is complex. So in a team, there's the contracting between team members, contracting between coach and co-coach, contracting with a supervisor. That's just reminded me, and sorry, Katerina, but we mentioned it very briefly before about how you might work with a co-coach. And
yes.
and then I wanted to talk to you a little bit about different modalities and the kind of the more directive elements. But how might that work with a co-coach?
Yes. So there are not the guidelines about how. You can see there is some context, nice guidelines in the book From One to Many of Jennifer Britton. I hope I say the last name correctly. And
I can drop the link in as well.
Great. So for me, that I had experience working with a co-therapist and co-trainer, that was easy how to get organized and work with that. And in group coaching also, I love it. In team coaching, I love it to have someone with me, so to working with a co-coach. Now, what does it mean? It means first, we have to understand what are the factors based on which we are making the choice if we are going to work with a co-coach or not. For some coaches, it's based on the number of the participants in the team, right? If they are more than 6 or 8, they are going to work with a co-coach. For others, like me, it doesn't matter, and I can take under consideration other elements, for example, the context, or if it is, if we want to work a lot about change, if there's a toxic culture also. So elements, or a lot of challenging dynamics, some things that might need to have a different person there, or the culture. So for example, there are other cultures that having a female team coach will not inspire them as much as having also a male, and I can work with that. Now, before we get into a session, we do the same process with our co-coach. We have a contract with them. We sit down and we answer so many questions, and we decide from admin stuff or between us. Also, being clear about what is going to be our role. Is it going that we're going to lead specific segments? How we are going to do that? So be clear about, for example, in which cases one takes the lead, in what cases other takes the lead, or anything actually. So we clarify that, and then during the sessions, we have this dance with the co-coach. So I'm aware of my team, but I am aware that I'm also a team with him or her, and we both, our energy, both ourselves, impact the team. the other system. And I like, another thing that I like with when we're working with the co-coach is the reflections that we can have in between sessions. So maybe I don't have time, to have the supervision there, or something that I might skip and my co-coach will bring me to the awareness, or just to have a sounding board and process something that I became aware, but I'm not really sure what exactly is it. And also we can make other decisions about it, approaches, and of course at the end to reflect about the entire process. So yeah.
Wonderful. It's just a slight sideways step back to one of the competencies, which was competency 1. There's something about it's got the dirty word directive within it. It says adopts more directive team development modalities only when needed to help the team achieve their goals.
Yes.
And there's another emphasis actually as well, a bit about goals rather than growth in some of these competencies. I picked up on as well. But
good.
So that chunk then.
Okay, so we start by the word modalities. There is a table there, and this table gives the understanding of the different modalities that all serve team development. So when we say team development is not just one thing. There are many the modalities, and team coaching is just one of these modalities. So if we have a contract and it is about the team development, we want to be clear with the sponsor and the client. Is it that we are going to give them team development? Are we going to apply other modalities apart from team coaching? What are these? What's the purpose, etc.? How to look like? So we want to have transparency and clear agreements.
Brilliant.
Now, if we're going to do just team coaching, we say, okay, team coaching is going to be, it will serve the team development, it will serve specific goals that we have. Now, in our team coaching, we might notice that something comes up and might need an additional knowledge, for example, and another expert, maybe I don't have this knowledge, another expert might be more suitable there, and we, again, be transparent about that. That's one aspect. The other aspect is about when I can be more directive. It doesn't mean that I guide the team. I provide, there I consult the team and I tell them, this is the direction. But when I am more directive, the purpose is to broaden the perspectives of the team, not narrow them down. Okay. So I can, for example, I can give, I don't know, I remember a case when I said, okay, there was something that was going on with diversity and conflict, and I could briefly give the input from an iceberg, what it looks like. It might sound as I educate them on the iceberg, but actually I'm not, I'm helping them broaden the perspectives, and we co-create actually that so that they can reflect more and now have a broadened point of view that can make the decisions.
Okay. Is there anything else that we need to say about that word goals? Because I noticed in competency 8 facilitates clients' growth, it talks about helping the team identify goals. The word goals is back in, it feels like, but I may be being picky.
No, actually, and I loved it when you separated growth and goals. And there was in one meeting, there was a question about what's the purpose of team coaching, and the question was team dynamics or performance. And actually, no, team dynamics is something you work with. You have it, team dynamics. The team coach needs to know about team dynamics, period. The other, the team performance, is one of the outcomes. It might not be the goal.
Yeah.
So it's the client will decide what is it that we are here to do.
Okay.
Right. So we create the goals.
And that's dynamics might be the goal, mightn't it? It might be that we want our team to function more effectively together. So
exactly. So they might want to have their goals on relationship. They might want to have their goals on performance. They might want to have their goals on alignment. Most of my contracts are more about the new culture and the new culture and the alignment of the team, or other elements. They don't focus a lot about performance, and they not always aware about, oh, we should work on dynamics. It doesn't really matter, because this is the knowledge of the code, something we work with. And even if we have a different goal, ultimately we know that the performance is going to be affected positively, because you have a team that collaborates better, understand each other better, is aligned, is more motivated, have better awareness. So it's going to be there in their performance. It's inevitable.
Wonderful. Katerina, I'm conscious of our time, and there's some final question I wanted to ask you, which is the kind of, how will coaches use this, and what's next for the team coaching competencies?
Okay, so what's next? Actually, ICF is preparing a specialty designation for team coaching. It's not called credential, so that it doesn't create confusion, but it's a specialty designation of team coaching. And it's going to be announced in October, the first day of ICF Converge. What the path is going to be for a coach to get this specialty designation as a team coach. So we will have all the answers there of how to do that.
Brilliant.
In the meantime, what a coach, an ICF coach who works with teams can do, or would like to work with teams, is to understand these team competencies. If they find also team coaching trainings that are based on these competencies, even better, and they will understand, even if they have their own approach, their own style, their own model, how now it looks like when they are actually practicing these core competencies in their model.
Brilliant. And I will put in details of your training. I know you offer training, and also the community of practice, because that's a fabulous resource for people interested in this area.
Oh, yes, yes. And I cannot take credit for the community of practice, because it was created many years ago by Calvin Hoy. And I am the co-leader since last year of the ICF Team and Group Coaching Community of Practice with Paulius Rate from Lithuania. And we have a lot of events. Actually, this week we have an event, an AMA session, Ask Me Anything session, with guest experts where we were all in the team of the experts for the competency model. And next month we have another session with guest Marguerite Sago, who is expert in conflict management through transactional analysis. So there is something happening, if not every month, very frequently. So, and we have also the groups, the LinkedIn groups, so they can reach out with any questions, any additional resource information they want, or just connection.
Thank you so much. And thank you for your time today. I'm much clearer. That was so useful for me, and I'm hoping that everyone listening in found it useful too. And Katerina, I will tag you so that if people do have questions or anything, that you'll be there to answer.
Yeah,
thank you again.
With pleasure. Thank you very much, Mariana.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.